I'm Jonathan Steuer. I'm now about 7 months in at Videoamp, but have been working with the company for about 4 years. My previous role was the Chief Research Officer at Omnicom Media Group, where I worked with Videoamp as a data and a platform supplier, and with Lauren and our other friends at Dish as a buyer, perhaps not as much as we would love to be, but of your inventory and using some of the products that we've been talking about. So, I've spent about 20 years ish in the business, just trying to make better data available. I mean, I'm a measurement guy by background, a research guy, and for a long time, the obstacle in the marketplace was there just wasn't good enough granular data for optimized TV to be a real thing. And I think now what we've seen is a combination of data from folks like Dish coming into the marketplace over the last few years, as well as the huge changes in the industry as streaming has become much more of a thing, driving everybody to both generate and use data in ways that we haven't before. So I'm excited. I like to think that I'm becoming more indispensable as things go on.
Awesome. Appreciate that info. So talk to us a little bit about why reach incrementality matters so much, and how can it be achieved in your opinion?
Sure. I mean, coming from the buy side, this is something that we were really focused on at OMG, and I think other agencies too. We just heard this on the previous discussion. There's a ton of extreme overfrequency especially on the linear TV side. We did a bunch of research on that back in my prior life and found that the over delivery on linear campaigns was sometimes an issue, to the point that the additional impressions did more harm than good. We called it negative reach. The idea that you're actually at a certain point, just the over frequency is irritating people to the point that it's making them less rather than more likely to be your customer. So, the question becomes, how do you intelligently use data to reduce that over frequency, and while still spending less money, allocate that to incremental reach? And especially as linear only households are shrinking in number, and the combined linear plus streaming households are actually growing in number quickly, linear over delivery becomes the problem. And so finding out where that over delivery is happening and allocating those dollars to smarter ways to extend that reach using addressable, it might mean that the raw CPMs are higher, but the effective CPMs per incremental reach point are much lower, because you're actually taking essentially found money that you were using to annoy people and using it to reach people you actually wanted to talk to in the first place. I apologize for the appearance and disappearance of my limited hair in this terrible light environment, but it's what comes with using the corporate issue back. There's not that much, but there's some.
All good. Yeah, that's definitely a very valid point. And it seems like, clients on the front end are just so focused on the cost per point, but not really taking into consideration much of the back end and where that CPM really nets out to from, when delivery is finalized. So that's an excellent point. Can you talk a little bit, you touched on this, but how is Videoamp specifically helping clients achieve their reach and frequency goals?
Thanks for asking. Happy to share. I think, this is one of those situations where the first step's admitting you have a problem, and that's what drives buyers to Videoamp in the first place, is to just be more efficient about their investment strategies. And, my personal focus is making better data available to help in the planning and the transaction and in the measurement process to do that. And that, starts with our commingled TV delivery data set. It's viewership, except it's hard to know who's in front of the TV. And that lets us look at how many households are exposed to programs and ads, but also which ones. So understanding household and device level TV activity and combining that in a privacy safe manner with household characteristics and other data sets from folks like Dish to let us measure reach and frequency specifically against target audiences at a granular level, at a household level. And once you've been able to do that measurement, you can then use the delivery data to fuel better targeting, whether that's on linear, whether it's on OTT CTV, so suppressing the folks you already hit and targeting them on digitally targetable methods, or by using that same data to do a better job reaching those folks via addressable. And I know that's one of the ways we like working with y'all. Agencies use our platform to improve their targeting, but that same data becomes valuable by media sellers to provide inventory that helps extend reach and thereby prove that the sellers who are doing that are able to be more effective and efficient for the agencies and for the marketers. And my goal, again, as the TV currency lead here, is to provide a data set there that's good enough that buyers and sellers can eventually use it as the basis of their actual transactions. So moving to a world where we can actually transact on incremental reach and prove the value.
That would be awesome. So what, like with the over frequency issues you've mentioned, obviously, and ratings erosion and things of that nature, and this could be from your experience on the agency side or just, in the past several months, but how have you seen behavior changing on the client and agency side, or what pivots have you guys made internally to promote change? And your position seems like might be one of them, but would love to hear more about that.
Yeah, I mean, my position was certainly one that didn't exist at Videoamp when I started working with them about 4.5 years ago at OMG. Again, the key in my role is to help make better data available to be able to drive buyers and sellers to transact on better data. But what I saw essentially building up and then driving adoption of advanced TV at OMG is that it's kind of a dance on both sides to make the data available and then make the tools available to make it easy to use that data for better planning and buying decisions. And then eventually, as we're doing now in my current role, is to start to enable transactions around something other than just total GRP delivery, and how to get people to think about can we transact on incremental reach? Can we transact on performance? Can we help manage the changes that have to happen in both buying and selling organizations to enable the adoption of better data as it becomes available? And that's part of what the creation of this role was at Videoamp, was to say, okay, we've got some adoption by buyers who are using our planning tools. How do we, essentially add transactional capabilities to that, allow them not just to find better sources of inventory to reach their campaign goals, but to actually be able to, click buy and make advanced TV products, whether that's, data-driven linear or addressable, available as an easy to use way to drive to those goals.
And how far away would you guys say you are from that, from the inventory standpoint?
We did our first inventory integration, was announced at the beginning of this year with OpenAP, and that's to allow data-driven linear inventory to essentially start to show up in our platform. We're excited to be pushing toward being able to do that with addressable sources and with other inventory sources. And the offer is sort of open to the marketplace to help make it easier there. Obviously there's a huge challenge in terms of just integration with legacy systems on both the agency side, which we are a couple of years in on at Videoamp, and on the sell side to help build out those pipes and connect them up and make things work the right way, and then to be able to enable not just planning, but actually guarantees against the data. So I'd say we're, 5 to 10% complete on the inventory integration side, but that, look, the appetite is certainly there today.
Awesome. Well, I mean, you kind of just touched on this, the legacy tools that agencies are using, because like there is a shift in mindset, right, on the client and agency side. And I feel like conceptually people, understand the value that data-driven strategies can bring. But, there's still counterintuitively this reliance on legacy tools to plan and measure. And, what's your opinion on how we can affect change and incorporate strategies like addressable as part of the equation in the planning process?
Well, I mean, look, I'd love to do I'm doing whatever I can to make it go faster. And I think getting the agencies up to speed was a really important step. And I think that's now happened. I mean, at Videoamp, we're working with, not just OMG, but also Dentsu today on advanced TV initiatives. And I think we're finally getting to the point where the media buyers are educated. But, look, one of the big obstacles comes in also managing, the organizational change on the marketer side. And, there was a huge variance across my clients on the agency side among, folks who are super well evolved toward really aggressive use of data around everything they do on one hand, and other marketers where the brand managers bonuses are still based on traditional TV reach because that's what fits in their MMMs. And one of the things that we found was just given the shift to streaming, those traditional reach metrics, not just to pick on that, we're really accounting for only 60% of viewers. So if your bonus was based on 90% of 60%, that's only 54%, and that's not where you want to get to. So, definitely helping the marketers to understand those outages is a really huge thing, and helping them understand how they need to adjust their comp structure and their goals. And I think the smart move is trying to enable everybody to be able to move to thinking more about effective CPMs. So how does my next dollar go toward on target and on frequency impressions rather than on bulk delivery that might have measured the right thing in a world where there were 3 networks and no streaming, and toward how the modern world of TV works today. And again, a lot of that is just an educational process and making sure that folks understand the value of tools like addressable inventory to get to people who they otherwise would be missing because they're light linear TV viewing households or have adapted other viewing behaviors that just aren't measured the usual way.
Absolutely. So, I mean, you touched on this earlier, like the data set that you guys are forming. What's the criteria on your end for, including a specific data set, and are there plans to further grow that?
So I think, where we start, and I work really closely with Josh Chasen, who's our Chief Measurability Officer, and we've been both sort of pushing for better data, him from the ComScore side and me at TiVo and OMG for a long time. What you really want to have is a data set that includes both smart TV data and set-top box data like we're getting from Dish on the linear side. You need multiple good sources of OTT and streaming delivery data, and we believe that the best answer there is server log data that has had viewability and fraud guaranteed elimination associated with that. And you also want to have ideally a person level very granular panel that looks at cross-platform viewership, and we're certainly trying to head in that direction as quickly as we can get there. More is not necessarily better, because doing the right thing with all the available data sources and how do you combine and commingle them intelligently and turn that into forecastable household level and person's level data is really the important trick. But we're certainly trying to bring on more set-top box data as well as more smart TV ACR data as we can get in the marketplace. We're pushing hard to get better universe estimates. There's a ARF project right now that helps us understand that landscape of who's stream only, who's streaming plus linear, who's linear only, and how are those things changing over time. And also to help with the change management side, to help make that better data available, not just in a ratings platform or in a planning tool, but throughout the entire ecosystem. Again, so folks can plan, buy, transact, and measure against that same data.
Awesome. Well, I feel like we're almost just at time, and we've gone through, a lot of the questions that we chatted about. But I guess to end on a lighter note, I know pre-COVID you enjoyed traveling quite a bit. Any plans to take a big trip now that things are sort of improving, or have you gotten to travel in any way recently?
Well, I went to my first company offsite with the Videoamp folks in Orange County about 6 weeks ago and got to meet some of my colleagues who I'd never met in person before, though I'd been working with them for 6 months. That was awesome. I'm looking forward to actually visiting the Videoamp LA office, where I've been many times, for the first time as an employee. My mom moved to the Bay Area, and I haven't visited her since she's been there, and left my ancestral homelands in Wisconsin. And I've got a high school junior child who is hoping to actually be able to visit some college campuses in person over the summer to have a decision informed by something other than Zoom tours. So lots of travel opportunity in my near future. And, I'm just glad that we're headed in that direction.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jonathan, and thanks, David, for everything.
Thanks for the opportunity, Lauren. David, thanks for moderating, and look forward to seeing many of you out there in the audience in person over drinks as soon as possible.
I hope so. I think the pent-up demand is there. We're hearing from our community every day. We're getting ready to get back to the real world, assuming that it continues to get, safer to do so. We're just as excited as you guys. So hopefully soon, drinks in the real world. We'll see you there.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. I love it. All right, we're going to keep the show rolling. So again, thank you to Jonathan and Lauren. We've got our next session coming up. We have a big group discussion now. We're going to be talking about addressable TV and embracing the era of addressable television. One of the hottest topics we hear about from our community day in and day out, especially as we talk to the media side of the industry. So I'd like to welcome Ben Jankowski, our friend at MasterCard, the Senior Vice President and Global Head of Group Head of Global Media. We have Jason Trubowitz, the AVP of Strategic Planning and Advertising at United Health Group. Eric Neville, Senior Media Manager at Cadillac. Jim D'Antoni, our moderator.